Love me some good Overwatch in 4K color. It's good. Good stuff. Good stuff over at faceit.com/watch. 4K Overwatch action. No, but I mean, we talked about having the opportunity to look at different player POVs, right? So if you head on over to faceit.com/watch, you get to pick the POVs that you want to follow. Now, Rich, you said for this one, you want to follow all the Symmetras. Well, you are in luck because our next match is between Qadsiah and Twisted Minds, so there will be Symmetra action aplenty. I say that now, and then they obviously will not be playing it whatsoever, but we'll find out. So yeah, make sure to watch all the action over there. You can watch our broadcast there as well. Lots of cool features. Speaking of cool things, this match, that's right, it's the upper bracket final. We will find out which team will be moving on to the grand finals. Obviously, all the teams we are seeing henceforth in this region have already qualified for the mid-season championship. So now it's all about more money and better seeding, which is also very important and very nice. Let's talk about the two teams, though. Both, of course, having had dominant performances all stage long, and they continued that dominant streak here in our playoffs with their initial matches being a 3-0. So not much to showcase there, really, other than just stomping on the opposition, looking like just star-studded lineups on both sides. Let's start with Qadsiah here, though, because we've not seen a lot of weak points from them. They've dropped 3 maps overall in Stage 2. Ziad has been an absolute menace. I loved seeing Checkmate swapping over to that Symmetra, Alata, back on Cassidy as well, to just shoot heads. Like, they're just looking unbeatable.
They are such a well-oiled machine, and even, you know, from both Uber and Matt, when they were talking a little bit about, you know, why the Symmetra is so significant, we don't get to see it as much from the two that we just had, because the synergy and the level that you need to have compositionally and just understanding one another is so high level. And you said it, Checkmate on this Symmetra has been so dominant, and the backline I have to give some credit to. I know we talk about tank, I know we talk about DPS, but Landon and just both of them together have worked so strategically to be able to keep this team always moving in the right direction. And realistically, we've also not seen these two really go head-to-head since week 1. So it has been an extended period of time to have them go against one another and to see what that evolution is still going to kind of look like.
Right, because the only maps that Qadsiah dropped, all 3 of those maps that they dropped were in week 1. 2 of them against Twisted Minds, right? So we haven't seen them clash in a long time. And you just mentioned the backlines over for Qadsiah. Twisted Minds, I'm a Simple fan. Holy, am I a fan of Simple. So deadly playing that Zenyatta. Yeah, I said what I said. Baptiste, like, he's sharpshooting in the backline. And obviously you have like a strong DPS duo in Quartz and Juby there as well. And Psycho in the mix, who's also been just so flexible. TVNT coming in and out with KSA. Like, they look very versatile.
You know what, Zoe? You hit all the notes. That's all there is to know right now. That's all there is to know. But I know people have been, you know, chatting a lot about Simple for the right reasons. The Zenyatta on Ilios especially has been crazy. But the fact of the matter is that Qadsiah have the upper seed, right? So we're not going to see Ilios for the first map, which means that we won't see that Simple Zenyatta lighthouse strategy where he just goes crazy, levitating all over the place. So we'll have to see actually how this team is going to perform when they don't have the control map pick, of course. Now, you mentioned all the right things, of course. They have played a lot more Symmetra recently with UB. And the big thing to look out for in this match, of course, is if we get a Symmetra mirror, who gets the positional advantage? These two teams, they'll be jostling for high grounds, for positional advantage. And that will be like the big advantage, really, that determines some of these fights, right? But for a series like this, we have 2 amazing teams. They play fairly similar stuff. They're just like the 2 best teams in the region, clearly. I feel like for this match especially, it's like when you're watching a detective show, some people, they try to figure out the mystery. They're like, oh, I think it's that side character, like they look mean, like they're probably involved in the crime, something. Just like, if it's a good show, just sit back. Just enjoy the show. You don't need to figure it out. You need to overthink it, okay? So for this matchup, Twisted Minds Qadsiah, yes, look out for the positioning with the Symmetra. Yeah, look out for Psycho to get subbed in, maybe Blitz and Tracer. But just enjoy the series. This is going to be a giga banger, and I hope we get map 5. I can't wait to see it.
You lost me there for a second. I wasn't entirely sure where you're taking this. I think if the PSA here, if the actual takeaway was enjoy the show, then yes, I will be enjoying the show. These two teams have been treating us to some banger and most of all to some dominant matches. Let's see how they stack up at the very end of stage 2 as we saw them clash many weeks ago last. So for all the action, let me send it over to Mitch and Matt.
Yeah, look, I couldn't ask for a better prelude from our desk here. It doesn't get any better than this in EMEA. Your two very best teams, a matchup we've been denied ever since week number 1, which resulted in a complete dogfight, a 3-2 victory for Qadsiah. But there's something about Twisted Minds, Matt. It feels like this team are really peaking at the right time. When Simple comes in for Irony, this team looks like a different beast.
I mean, Simple has been sick since we got it all started. As you know, you mentioned my dog actually started to jump onto my desk as he was excited for this one as well. But no, Simple on the Zen, like especially on Ilios, like that's been super awesome to watch. But obviously not going to get the opportunity here for TM to pick the map, where this kind of goes all the way back, right? I think these two teams since the beginning have clearly been the best in EMEA. Qadsiah, I think, has been a step above, right? They have not really lost any maps at all since playing against Twisted Minds. So if there is one team that would dethrone Qadsiah, this would be it.
Yeah, I mean, they are 21-3 over the course of stage 2. That is a pretty squeaky clean record, all things considered. An impressive team. We'll be putting it lightly for Qadsiah. And of course, they've already secured their spot at our mid-season championship here. It's about re-establishing and reasserting their dominance at the top of the heap, as Twisted Minds have been nipping at their heels. And they've been looking pretty incredible, showing us a little bit more, we think, of the meta style coming out of EMEA, making great use, of course, of that sim, a good reason to get UB involved in the gameplay. Quartz has been hitting very, very hard, going up against Lavda, who, of course, has been incredible on hit scan after making that switch. Trying to get this one started, folks. Our upper bracket final between Twisted Minds and Qadsiah. First to 3, strap in.
And it's something that we saw them do last week, Twisted Minds, is bring UB back in, right? They were playing Psycho a lot. Now they bring UB back into the mix. Is this a much different look, Mitch? A Sigma-based composition here with the back Colosseo and the Sim. So playing the Sigma here instead of like trying to play like a Diva, where that's kind of like Ziad's bread and butter, though, playing this Diva. I mean, he is, if there was like an MVP award for EMEA for stage 2, I find it hard to. Yeah, I'm sure you could make an argument for somebody else, but I'd find it hard to make a strong argument for anybody but Ziad. I mean, he has been so good for this Qadsiah team.
I mean, I could, but I won't. I tend to agree. Qadsiah's been absolutely stunning. The gameplay for these two teams looks really similar. You saw them both try and TP into each other's backlines, but the Sigma composition doesn't necessarily have the stopping power to prevent this, and doesn't always like to turn his back and deal with his backline. So Qadsiah might have a slightly better suited composition for this kind of game, at least in that first neutral fight. And so they'll start with control of the point itself. You see, of course, that minor perk for Sim, as was mentioned by Shockwave in the interview, Matt, a 50% increase on teleporter range is unreal. We don't really see that come to the fore until those perks are established, and Twisted Minds are going to be sent packing again.
And you see KSA gets shot out there early. I think the Sigma, it's a very interesting idea, right? You obviously have the barrier to protect yourselves against like some of the damage that maybe comes on in from Lavda, right? But and it's really, I think, about the accretion to stop maybe the Diva or the Sim. But if you miss that, even if you're using like Kinetic Grasp, the Sim is just damaging through that, right? So you're not really doing much there, where that could be a very dangerous scenario. As you see KSA, we're even getting onto the point already, basically has all of his shield ripped off.
Yeah, and I mean, once the TPs come in, he has to turn his back on a Sojourn and Kiri backline. It's really difficult for KSA to get in. This is a less maneuverable, less mobile composition from Twisted Minds, and honestly, they're struggling to try and get a fight on their terms. Sound Barrier comes in at a good time to keep Ziad nice and healthy. There's Twisted Minds trying to stave them on off here. The Landers with a Kitsune Rush that now expires. The symbol here is pretty bloody brilliant, though. Can't ask for a better shield than that. Sigma could never. Simple and Yubi already off the table, and this is looking like a bit of a one-sided round to kick us off. KSA finally hits that accretion. It's on a D-suited Diva, though, and it's too late in the day.
Funny Astro's beat. We'll have to take a look at that. I don't even know if it kind of went for anything there. So we'll see as everybody just will down so fast. And I know maybe what kind of happened with that beat potentially there, right, is that sim walls rolling, maybe kind of like block some line of sight, but we'll have to see as KSA will switch over to the ball here, try and make a play to get back. Quartz coming in here with an overclock could make it quite interesting. Is not just over yet.
No, they mean KSA in the fight though. UBC was landed. That does strike a blow at the heart of our Qadsiah. Quartz looking for a target here. Doesn't find really any. Kellex spotted out towards the back of the pack here with the rail gun, but able to get away before the finishing blow could come in, and eventually Quartz will be left upon. Qadsiah turn on a dime to go after the enemy Sojourn, and they do concede the point early. They'll have this one back in their control, and KSA will not be allowed to get back to safety.
Yeah, they push far off of the point to just get these players out. Labda connects with a headshot there onto Yubi as that is a blowout there from Qadsiah in round one. An interesting attempt there from Twisted Minds with a different comp.
And I guess we're gonna have to look at the Sigma. You mentioned it. Hitting that accretion on the suited D, but not the desuited one, is pretty important. Or at least, I guess, on a sim that tries to charge through your shield or go, under it or over it, whichever, with the teleporter. It feels a little less comfortable. It can feel a little claustrophobic for KSA in some of those scenarios, and just him trying to get out of the map in general seems very, very challenging. Man, it's tough. Lambda has a really good round, like in terms of damage output. Doesn't die at all. Really dominant stuff.
And you can't really even glean anything meaningful from those stats, right? As for Twisted Minds, right? You were just in a pretty rough start the entire game. The sound barrier actually from Funny Ash on that fight actually did connect, right? So it came actually on the right side of the sound barrier. It's just on the sim barrier. It's just everybody just kind of gets dwindled down so fast by the ramping sim right after it that it looks like you didn't even have it. We're gonna get some Reinhardt action here. So this is like a London Spitfire SSG-esque.
Yeah, this is a throwback. Ryan with sim. Unfortunately, against May, he's absolutely cooked. That is such a mismatch here. I think like bringing that May sim composition against what Twisted Minds have to work with could be quite problematic for them. KSA trying to hit a charge, and when you're going for a reinforced pin like that you're out of options.
It's also a little bit of a rare change for Qadsiah, one I can't remember them doing at any other time, where it's Labda playing the sim. Checkmate has really been kind of their sim player the entire time, but Checkmate can play a lot of the different things, Tracer, Genji, Mei, so if they want to keep that sim in the mix and keep a Mei, that is kind of the swap they have to make. But I think this Reinhardt, you're just going to get cooked.
Yep. Up until now, we've really only seen the Mei used to counter Ramatra setups, unlike Circuit Royal with a Sigma comp, trying to also use the wall to give you a way to fall back. But here he gets a Riot on a map like this, it's pretty devastating, actually. KSA now has to try and find a way to bait the wall, but doesn't have the mobility to get back on the other side of it. That's the safest way he could have done it, just while Qadsiah were still at arm's length. Turrets thrown up here to try to protect the back line, but Qadsiah don't really have any flanking tools. It's landing going down though. Quartz lands a crucial headshot and a D-suit now on Ziad. You can see just what they can do behind a big Air Matrix play.
Yeah, Air Matrix gets Quartz in a great position, and then you get that Reinhardt right up into the mix, and you start to ramp a little bit on Yubi, and that's kind of where it starts to look good, and that's the Kitsune rush from Qadsiah. So we'll see how Qadsiah decides to kind of push into this. Now with that Air Matrix gone, right, you could look for like a sneaky, are you trying to do like a TP Blizzard type play? Are you trying to like engage with the sound barrier? Is sound barriers available for both sides?
Keep an eye on those TPs. That could be pretty big here. Checkmate trying to dance these bubbles down. Would like someone to move up and find him a good Blizzard, but Twisted Minds are wise to it. They know how devastating that could be. So KSA will be allowed to play from behind that shield. Oh, that Checkmate! There is no escape for KSA. He flanks around the left side, drops the Blizzard in just as the symbols come down, and then walls off KSA for good measure. That's exactly why Mei is the natural predator Reinhardt in these kind of compositions. And Twisted Minds need to answer that pick now.
Yet even with a good sound barrier there from Funny Astro, right, it connects with KSA. You actually got Simple to use that Immortality field trying to keep that Ryan alive. It's just all the damage focused down on the KSA. There's no amount of healing you're going to be able to do to keep him up. Shatter plus Deadeye potentially here as TM uses a TP to get on a flank, and look at this, they all get caught, and they're going to lose Yubi. That is a massive loss.
And KSA was in no position to intervene. Another May wall that completely trounces him. Shout out to KSA. Zero connection there. Hard to see where the Reinhardt's supposed to be accruing value here. That's a tough one to miss. But there's a TP, of course, to take Qadsiah out of trouble. Should have been looming. And that was pretty straightforward stuff here. A one-sided Oasis snapped up by Qadsiah.
Obviously we expect this one to be pretty close, but Qadsiah asserting dominance there in the first map, where you saw them for a very rare opportunity, right? Put Labda onto the sim, right? Labda on the Sojourn up on the high ground in the first round. Checkmate being able to play some of the May. Every strength, it feels like, for Qadsiah on display here in map 1.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you. Recently, Psycho talked a lot of trash. Felt like this Twisted Minds team were unbeatable right now, and definitely sort of pinned that on their sim play being so very good. And right now, though, that looks like a struggle. That was potentially one of the best looks that both these teams could throw out, but KSA was playing a little experimentally. First with the Sigma, and then a brief stint on the ball, and then over towards the Reinhardt. So,
it's the winter final where you want experimental play.
Yes. Honestly, because you can do it in the grand final if you make your way.
Oh, yeah. I think you'd rather just win, right? I mean, that's the other alternative.
More likely to do it here, though, than in a lower bracket game when you don't have a second chance. But look, I use the word experimental somewhat ironically. Clearly, that's the game plan, but it doesn't feel like it puts Twisted Minds on their strongest foot. And I don't think either of those, both those tank picks. I mean, I feel like Twisted Minds counted themselves. The Sigma just wasn't able to respond in the first round quickly enough. The Ryan got ruined by May.
And if you want to try and, counter, like, the sim comp, like, let's say you don't want to play, like, head-to-head. I know we had Avril on last week. I think Avril come back here for NA, but Avril was talking about how, like, Maga with, like, Venture has been used against sim in a lot of different situations, right? Like, could you use those two heroes in combination? Sim is pretty weak, right? You get a Maga stomp, Venture burrow, and the sim is gone, and then it's a pretty favorable comp to brawl out in.
You could try it now, because Maga's Berserker passive overshield got increased by like 10%, 20%, I think. And also, like, Venture fires quicker. Like, their recovery time is lessened in between shots. So these are tweaks, right? Very minor tweaks. Maga's always been tweaked slightly, like more armor here, less armor there, or, more health.
It should just be less all the time. Just less everything with Maga when they tweak.
Yeah, I mean, let's see our community preds here. Qadsiah, favored. I mean, their run right now through, this stage 2 has been pretty impressive. Also, like a side note, these two teams did play in the Saudi E-League recently, but I mean, Psycho was playing support in that one. I think Simple couldn't play, so I wouldn't read into it too much. It was a 3-0 though, but I think like all the data available to us should suggest an Qadsiah win here. Circuit Royal will be our second map choice though.
If you're TM, is there a world in which you ban D.Va if you don't want to play it, right? Or it's like Ziad to play like a Ramatra, Sigma, or Risa type of game, right? Like that could be an opportunity, but no. What do you think they did with the ban? Don't cheat. No. I see you going for your mouse reduction. Spoiled it. They get rid of Farah here.
Okay.
This could be a DPS protect. Very well be, because for Qadsiah, right? I mean, Lambda, tremendous, Farah on that side of things, and then Qadsiah will get rid of the Alari. I think it's probably more of like a DPS protect. Like, do you want to protect like Freya, right? We haven't seen Lambda play a ton of Freya. Do you want to protect the Freya here for Quartz? That would be an opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Labs preferred to go in that Sojourn direction, maybe sprinkle some Cassidy in here and there. I don't think it's a DPS protect. I definitely think it's going to be looked at. We know that Qadsiah actually have two very solid potential Fire players on that roster. We've seen Checkmate go that way for quite some time. But I guess we're likely, honestly, to see a reprise of the May, potentially, especially with Farah being taken off the map. If we have a Sigma comp, we've seen like May paired with that as well. Obviously, it's a great answer to Ramatra comps that try and run down the Sigma. Having a Blizzard there obviously is the best thing to stop Ramatra in his tracks when he's made use of that Annihilation, or just in general, if he tries to Nemesis form up on you. So I'd expect to see that one brought back into the mix again. And we mentioned Arisa. She's definitely seen play here, but I don't love it. Ziad obviously, turned up on Orisa in the first couple of weeks of stage 2. It looked very, very good here, but this Ramatra comp seems very, very reasonable on the defense side and feel like they can win the mirror. They don't need the Mei because they probably feel like if they have a Ramatra mirror, they've got an advantage there. I'm definitely looking at TM, see what they're going to go for here. A slight buff to Moira recently just brings her a little bit in line with some of the baseline healing.
Dude, we've seen Moira these last few weeks. I know you haven't been here, but we've seen a handful of it. That's why Jake asked for a day off today.
Okay.
Like I just can't do it anymore.
I respect
Moira.
it. I mean, so she gets a slight boost on her like primary healing, the golden cloud, we'll call it. So something to bear in mind. Obviously not great. Obviously doesn't succeed in longer fights. So we will see.
The DPS ban is totally to protect this for Quartz. I that's kind of how I'm strongly feeling about this. Because Lab does not play the Freya at all.
Sojourn versus Freya, not necessarily a counter to Lambda, but can be a little bit frustrating, especially tough for Ziad to deal with this constant Freya pressure. But the frontline damage trades go pretty favorably for our Qadsiah early on, and Quartz also takes a glancing blow from God knows where and is forced to drop off that line of sight entirely. Remember now, the perk with the Vortex healing has been increased somewhat, giving Ramatra a little bit more staying power in some of those fisticuffs engagements in the front line. He can dance within his own AoE and have extra sustain. So far, our Qadsiah have been tough to shift by Twisted Mind's comp. It's on Quartz, I think, really, to start to find some openings.
Yeah, and I think there's maybe a little bit of a window here for Qadsiah because the Immortality Field was gone for Simple at the time. It's going to be an Amp Matrix already here for TM. That's going to be the Kitsune Rush here used as well, and Simple just gets ran over there by Ziad.
I mean, that is the answer, right, to that Amplification Matrix. You really want to make use of that on a straightaway and not on a corner. It's very hard to put that in a position where the enemy team won't be incentivized to just run straight through it, especially with the Lucio Kiriko composition. Twisted Minds there, completely flattened.
Quartz gets up high here. If he doesn't get these picks right, I mean, that's kind of why you have the Freya to get at range.
Immortality Field got used. Symbol pretty timely here for Checkmate. Yubi's still a long way away from his, and Symbol is in trouble. Checkmate throws him in the blender.
Bye.
RMP sim damage is very tough to deal with. Funny Astro also won't be allowed to stay alive. Checkmate is simply left unchecked for far too long in that fight. Quartz is forced off the line, and he's basically out of options here, maybe hoping for a pick on Landon. That is a valuable one, to be fair. And he himself will be traded out for it.
Yes and no, right? I mean, Checkmate will be able to get a little bit closer to the fight, but still, you did, I think, your job if you're Qadsiah, right? I mean, you burned a ton of clock. You're going to still get this fight probably at first corner. Maybe it gives a little bit of a better sightline for Quartz, but no, I wouldn't be exactly worried about it at the moment. That's going to be the sim wall here used by Twisted Minds.
Qadsiah just back away behind it. They got great value out of theirs in the previous fight, and they want to set up a powerful annihilation situation. This is a Ramatra ultimate that won't be answered by Sound Barrier. Funny Astro used his in the previous fight, whereas Kellex was able to answer the annihilation with a Lucio ultimate of his own. This could be a problem for Twisted Minds if they do not answer Ziad. And so far, he's reluctant to use it too early. The Kellex is now down. Ziad wants to try and shove back, and yes, the annihilation will be drawn forth. Is this going to be enough now to win this fight without the Lucio? KSA down might be enough, but a great boot forward on Funny Astro means they can take Ziad out as well.
Yeah, he gets booped off to the side there. Ziad just trying his darters to hide behind one of those cars. Power block. Checkmate. Let's see. Are they going to try and get a touch? They get the TP in position. Yeah, they're going to be able to get a touch. So you're not going to be able to get that first checkpoint, but it's going to be Quartz there. Bola shot used. I think gets Checkmate a little bit low, and then a shot to finish him off.
I can't see a weakened now. Limping in a position to try and stop this first checkpoint from being taken, but Twisted Minds now. They're so close. 35 seconds left in the round, and just one more successful fight will get them there. They've got a Funny Astro Sound Barrier. Everything's lining up for them, but KSA goes very, very low. Gets in an Immortality Field. There's the Sound Barrier to answer him, and Ziad and Kellex eventually fall. Twisted Minds waiting on that support architecture until the last moment. It pays off for them. The patience gets them into the second phase of Circuit Royal.
Yeah, if you would have gotten that Kellex Sound Barrier, that could have been really interesting, but Twisted Minds, they get that early Sound Barrier. Funny Astro drops its speed, get right in Ziad's face as soon as they kind of take him out. They know that there's not going to be any serious contest coming through from Qadsiah, as Qadsiah gets a TP across here, so going to kind of break this close setup here by the door, but already some decent payload progress here by Twisted Minds.
Yeah, as you'd expect, Twisted Minds want to position as far forward as they can without At the risk of getting picked up by the Ramatra. That's deadly. KSA has an annihilation. It's all well and good, but Lambda smashes Quartz from across the map. Now Eyes turn at the offending Ramatras. Twisted Minds trying to invest more here into getting KSA in a position to succeed, and Checkmate got caught inside that vortex. Very well placed by KSA. Finally, the sound barrier gets teased out of Qadsiah, and it's not enough to keep Lambda alive. Now it's going to be a Kitsune Rush as well committed. They're throwing good money after bad, Matt. Qadsiah commit both support ultimates in a losing fight. That is a blowout.
Yeah, I mean, they're desperate to try and win that fight, right? It's the Amp Matrix used by Twisted Minds. They're able to get a few kills behind it. It's like an Amp Matrix in combination with their Sim Wall. No Sim Wall available for Checkmate at that moment, and then the beat is just, you know, obviously they end up using the beat. It's not really late. They just kind of use the beat when they have 3 players alive, and in a world of trouble there. Funny Astro, I mean, there's nothing he can do. He just gets TP'd right on top of.
TP and then the Vortex to make it very hard for the Lucio to get away, but that's really all that Qadsiah can get done on that defensive thrust. They get boulder shot for their trouble. So checkpoint had already been taken. They decide to TP forward and look for a fight anyway. And they force out this Freya ultimate. Now they get Annihilation. They've got a symbol of their own to play with next fight.
It feels like Qadsiah is just playing a little bit too fast, Mitch, right? Like they're just like kind of just TPing straight in over and over again, and that's kind of the extent of their play.
I think the communication in that last fight, the one with both support ultimates, has to have been absolutely catastrophic, Matt. They seemed very much, you know, without a head in that sort of fight. But they can bounce back from it. They get a pretty good defensive sort of time bleed on that first stage of the map. It's still only 2 minutes left for Twisted Minds to come through. Not having an answer to the Annihilation from KSA could be an issue, as Funny Astro has a sound barrier. So Twisted Minds will look to be favored in that fight. Checkmate might hope to try and break a sound barrier up with a sim wall, but Funny Astro is good enough that he usually gets over that hurdle in most of these fights. Here's the Annihilations, and Ziad simply ceases to exist. He popped his ultimate, in fairness. He just died.
I think they were actually trying to bait them into Ziad there, and he uses the Annihilation, but they lose Kellex at the same time, so they don't give him the sound barrier.
Okay, overclock here for Lambda. If the Ramatra is going to try and back away, and eventually this is respected by Twisted Minds. It doesn't feel like an efficient committing of ultimates, though. That's 4 in that last fight for Qadsiah. Just to get a disengage out of Twisted Minds, only to come back now with an amplification matrix, and Checkmate is already down. UB falls, though. Ziad's able to descend on him. Lambda getting on Simple's direction, and he'll be able to get safely away from this Ramatra. I feel like 4 ultimates is worth it if you get a stop like this at the end of the map, but it's getting desperate for Qadsiah.
And I mean, dude, this part of the map, though, is so difficult to complete, right? Especially rolling into a sim on the other side of things. Everybody just kind of throws ultimates in that previous fight. So you're looking at maybe Landon on the, maybe Landon or, you know, Ziad able to build up towards an ultimate, depending on how this fight goes. KSA as well, but
oh, that TP
not looking like a lot.
Look at that. These guys are going coast to coast. And now Twisted Minds have high ground control. They need to drop down, and they're in a trough of ultimates, but so are Qadsiah. This is very much going to be a neutral fight until Twisted Minds look to drop down. Simple's got a good vantage point. Nice to be Baptiste up here, and so Qadsiah TP to their own defensive high ground. Reclaim that part of the map. Force Quartz back onto his own side of the map.
Rush is going to be available.
Boulder shot coming around the corner here. Here's that rush you mentioned. Madalena's going to go straight forward. Simple buys a bit of time with an immortality field, but KSA's in trouble. Simple also a little bit low, and the turret's going to work on Yubi. Bring him down. Eventually, Qadsiah have a chance to reset their defensive utility around this point, and they can go for it. Annihilation for KSA, unfortunately, isn't going to be quite enough to do the job. Ziad's got one of his own. The Twisted Minds push will be put to bed.
Yeah, it's a nice job, I think, from both teams there. A rare situation where they both were trying to, like, TP around, kite, end up building some of these support ults, but then we kind of get into OT, and Landon already has his. And when you have to kind of play on that payload at that moment, right? With the Kitsune rush there, and nothing you could really do. Astro and Simple close to building up towards some of these ultimates at the end, but they don't actually even get them. But a nice strategy there from Twisted Minds, and a pretty good offense.
After a tough start, they bounce back pretty nicely. That is a pretty disgusting amount of damage that KSA's been able to do this round. Compare it to Ziad's, like, sort of 9k. 13.3 K damage on the Ramatra. Some of these vortexes that KSA has been throwing down, in a pinch, have absolutely caught out Qadsiah on multiple occasions. And you got to mention it. Qadsiah trying to play a little bit too fast. big commitment. Double support ultimate thrown down in like a 4v5, 3v5 scenario. Just, you know, in that second phase of the map, really put them behind until they were able to reestablish themselves. Now it's about having a very fast-paced push at Ziad on the Orisa. Let's see what the plan is going to be for Qadsiah if they stick to these picks.
This map first, guys. Maybe one time next map.
No, I can clear left solo. So Tonori left.
Yeah. Okay. Ram.
Rami left. Clear that left side. You can just stick together.
Fire. Yep. I'll hard block you, Levin. Don't worry.
Yeah. Rami stage. Rami stage. What? Run. I feel Ram. Sure. Clear behind. I'm taking
Push.
Ram. I'll have to shoot. Ram. Nice. Talk a little bit.
They're swapping. They're swapping Lucio. Maybe he's speeding up.
No,
yeah,
it doesn't matter. We care from doing it.
Same thing.
Matt, this is a pretty devastating comp for Qadsiah. They set up a May wall and they swing from behind it with that Bastion wheels mode, as you like to call it. That's too much damage.
And look, I mean, Bastion gets a slight change, right, in terms of like size. As that's a nice May wall, kind of split off KSA. But the amount of damage that the Bastion can put down, as you see there, UB falls. Especially with Sim, it's like a glass cannon. I mean, if you are in the wrong spot for even a second against the Bastion, you are done on Sim.
Yeah, that was pretty tough to deal with. And remember, like, Bastion's hitbox has been reduced a little bit, so he's less punishable. You'll actually notice he is 10% smaller, just in general. So model and hitbox have both been scaled down. And obviously just very powerful here against a front line of KSA who wants to try and hold against Orisa. And now Bastion, it's a terrible matchup for the Ramatra.
And you don't even have to use any ultimates if you're Qadsiah to be able to kind of win that fight. That's a bullet shot there. It does a little bit of damage, but it's going to be an Amp Matrix already dropped there. The Immortality field here as well. And just the damage from Lambda is going to deter them from even trying to push through it.
All right, here comes a Mortal Strike from Lambda. Not a very mobile front line. KSA going to get pummeled by some of that damage. Knock him down to half, and much of that armor's been stripped away. Terror Surge used as Qadsiah thought there'd be a push-up, but Twisted Minds call a cancel on that. Not quickly enough, though, apparently, as KSA is run into the ground. And a Blizzard here means that Twisted Minds don't have any room to play and contest the card. GP comes out here, but everybody's huddling inside rather than Immortality field, and Ziad is not going to stop this guy. He's bloodthirsty. And Checkmate will assist in trying to deal with the Sim. Good Immortality field that took far too long to clear. Qadsiah had one of their own in play, but they got what they came for. They take the checkpoint with 5.5 minutes to play.
I mean, dude, that is a sick play from Ziad. Yubi, like, drops the TP to kind of go in, right? To just kind of play for this checkpoint. And obviously, Qadsiah is extremely pushed out. Ziad uses, like, Spear Spin, pushes them all back off of it. The extra damage coming in from, like, Checkmate just denies them from even using that Sim TP.
Qadsiah come back now, ready to regroup. Having to play around this amplification matrix. Pretty good combo with Lambda. A lot of bodies in his face, though. Tough to sit in for the trees here as KSA's making sure he gets ahead of that Amp Matrix as well. Both teams applying that strategy to counter out the Baptiste ultimates. Now there's Annihilation waiting to welcome Qadsiah with open arms, but Yubi gets picked off. Long-range javelin by the looks of things, and Checkmate's got a flanking angle, but Simple throws an Air Matrix down just for himself. Amp that healing, put pressure on the main that appeared in front of him. Now the chase is on. Ziad being pushed into, Blizzard thrown out, but is there enough follow-up damage on KSA? The answer is no. The Immortality field thrown down. Landon's able to get there with that extra damage. Now Funny Astro, without their tank, Twisted Minds have to give up that causeway.
Well, they want to end up using this Sim wall here to potentially try and fight this. So this is going to negate some of the damage that the Bastion can put down. But you see now on the Sim over the high ground. Terror Surge there. That's actually a Terror Surge yoinked in to the artillery strike of the Bastion. Now you're going to have to back up here if you're TM. And dude, Qadsiah has so much time.
They are well and truly on track to finish this map after they looked a little unconvincing on defense. This attack side has been blistering, to say the least. Landon has another Amp Matrix ready to go. He built that in one fight, folks. That is just how much he was able to do. Now KSA It'll be harder for him to step ahead of it now, depending on the setup. Oh, and the high ground as well. That is scary. Symbol's Immortality Field buys him a bit of a window, but now the damage comes to call. Lambda knocks on the door. KSA flattened ultimately by Ziad, and the damage from the Bastion. And a sound barrier feels like an embarrassment of riches for Qadsiah. That card keeps moving. Under 2 minutes away from the end of the map. Lambda is picked up, but Funny Astro is down, and now it's up to Simple to try and keep his team topped up. Ziad with a javelin charged up, looking for a target, but there just ain't none. Qadsiah, one of the most convincing attack side pushes we've seen on Circuit Royal in a matchup that is supposed to be a dogfight, a drawn-out banger. So far, Qadsiah have been a cut above.
I mean, on offense for Twisted Minds, with how they finished, you're like, oh, this is going to be tough for Qadsiah to do. And they just walk through them. I mean, that is as convincing as an offense as you could get. They come in with a Bastion setup with Mei and Sim, and it throws, I think, Twisted Minds just completely off. They're never able to kind of play that Sim head-to-head that they probably envisioned potentially getting here on their defensive side of things, and they were never able to really recover.
KSA has been getting targeted consistently over these two maps that we've seen. In fairness, he kind of brings it on himself in the first map, but as we move over here, you've seen Qadsiah pick a composition that is as hostile as humanly possible to a front line. Not only the Orisa into the Ramatra, which is a pretty good matchup for you in general, you combine it with the Bastion and the Baptiste here as well. So with that Air Matrix, you have all the tools you need to nuke down this Ramatra whenever possible. Very, very difficult at all, I think, for Twisted Minds to assert themselves when they cannot reliably play from behind their frontliner.
And, I mean, here, as you see, trying to use some of like the sim wall to, make an impact, but then also you're still playing the Freya, which like the Freya doesn't have a ton of like burst damage. Maybe like like a Sojourn, right, with like an overclock and just 2-tap like a Bastion. They don't really have that capability. So interesting to note. I know of Twisted Minds comes out on top in terms of the damage output. Qadsiah, I know a reasonable lead in terms of the healing done, but Qadsiah, I mean, they're just storming on through. I mean, business as usual. Does not matter the opponent.
And this is something that tends to emerge when you have two teams that are playing a similar style. But without Qadsiah being so much stronger in these brawl comps, these Symmetra-based setups, it feels like a bit of a blowout because Twisted Minds can't stand on even footing. And heading into King's Row, you should expect to see more of the same. Ramatra, Mei can definitely be, worked into the mix. The Bastion to some degree. There are less of those straightaways and more corners to try and hide away from him here, but all signs point to Qadsiah having a really strong showing, even on this map pick of Twisted Minds.
I mean, what do you even ban here? If you're Twisted Minds, right? You've already gone for Farah, right? On map 1, they had the Genji.
Ban Orisa. I think if you want to have, I think the Ramatra mirror looked pretty good for KSA. Mm-hmm. And I do think the ult timings for sound barriers to answer annihilations were pretty favorable for Twisted Minds in that first half here. You could target Orisa and basically, force or try to force a Ramatra mirror, but there's no guarantee that Ziad doesn't just turn around and play the D.Va and be a little bit of a nuisance to your Ramatra composition.
And would you see maybe somebody, so we have the bans. I was going to say maybe we see somebody ban, I know for Qadsiah, like a break or, something to kind of even unlock those D.Va comps more. But TM actually banned Mei, which Mei can be pretty good here on King's Row. And then Qadsiah gets rid of the BAP.
It's still... the Mei ban is still, I think, trying to set your Ramatra up for a good matchup. I guess, the thinking is that the Ramatra into Orisa is fine as long as there isn't a Mei that completely, stops the Ramatra and shuts down those annihilation plays. So the game played here has been Twisted Minds trying to set KSA up for success, whereas Qadsiah have been targeting him a lot over the course of this series. And now with the amplification matrix not really an option, Ramatra, you feel like he's got less of those defensive cooldowns to cycle in order to stay alive here. So it will be a curious matchup. I think Kiriko and Suzu are going to be fairly crucial here. But again, Mei and Baptiste both taken off the map.
I'm curious as well, with some of the adjustments to Queen, like you were talking about. Is there a potential to see a Queen, right? Play a Lucio Kiri with a Queen in the mix, right? Potentially, I mean, that also works with a Ram, right? So not necessarily needing to play a Queen, but could be interesting.
It might not be enough. Queen is interesting because the longer duration you make of the commanding shout, the longer it takes to come back off cooldown. Because often commanding shout, like the healing from it, the overheal dissipates pretty quickly because you're using it in like those frontline situations. So it's like, it's weird because you want it to last a long time for your backline, but you don't want it to last too long for yourself. You just want the overheal in a pinch and then have that ability come off cooldown sooner. So it's actually been changed now. So the allied duration goes up and Junker Queen's duration goes down on that ability. I don't know if it's a big enough change to bring her back into the middle. I had hope of seeing like these Genji Queen comps, but I think we're a little bit away from that still.
Yeah, not a ton of time for people to kind of experiment coming into the week. So for Twisted Minds, right, they'll be running Juno with an Ana here. As we'll get the overlay kind of up in a second. They'll actually see the Kiri Lucio on the defensive side of things. I think this is like more of what I thought this is more of what you would see, right? It's like a Kiri Lucio as Labda comes around the corner. Takes out Yubi as they've been able to find whether it be like KSA or Yubi first quite often.
Yeah, and you know, you get the Sojourn play that you want as Labda. You don't care if your opponent is going to play Freya or they're going to play Sojourn themselves. Quartz, in their own right, was heralded as probably one of the best hit scan players in this region, if not even, you know, a wider scope than that at a time. Until Labda stepped up to try and challenge for that throne. Sim TP is going to be important. Keep an eye on those now, as KSA just wants to hold steady in the front line. Disrupt the shot, though, has to be respected, but he will start to take some space, and that is an anti-heal on Ziad that has to be cleansed off instantly.
Yeah, I mean, they could have also banned potentially the Sojourn, right, to play some Freya here, as we'll see as Labda gets a nice angle here on like the opposite side. Look at where KSA is pushed back to, man. All the way back into the choke is Funny Ash will take a Labda, but feels like any serious attempt to actually get this checkpoint off for now.
Yeah, this question of what Quartz is supposed to be doing from here now. Get good damage down. He needs to wait for the rest of TM to act as the other side of this pincer for him, and he wants to keep this rail charged. So he'll sit here. Okay, he's got an eject button with the Sim TP used, but that's now a Sim TP that can't necessarily be used effectively by Twisted Minds to go on the offense and threaten that backline. And here comes the Kitsune Rush. So once more, it's Qadsiah who take the tempo. They take the initiative. And they absolutely take Twisted Minds to task. That is disgusting.
And you wouldn't even know it, but there's an orbital ray there for Twisted Minds, and that is a nano onto Yubi with the orbital ray rolling, and they couldn't have dropped any faster. I mean, just get absolutely ran through there by Qadsiah. Now Qadsiah, they'll have their sim wall and their annihilation to work with. I guess for Twisted Minds, you still have a bit of an advantage.
The communication for Qadsiah has just been sublime so far. They're defending, but they have been the ones taking the opportunities where they've been offered up. Simple goes low, has to duck behind that Sim wall, and KSA again tries to get in between his team and the rest of Qadsiah. And so a Sim TP disengage is in order for Qad. They'll back up. KSA now sets up on the point, tries to tease them on out. Qadsiah has an overclock to work with. He's trying to make connections, and he found a Landon. Finally, Labda dealt with. Checkmate out of the game as KSA beats into a pulp. Twisted Minds once more after a slow start will get on the road.
Yeah, and it's Quartz's overclock that really kind of opens things up there. Able to push them back into this corner that we're seeing the Twisted Minds kind of look at here, and then just a shooting gallery at range there for Quartz. Let's see though if they can actually win a fight here, Twisted Minds, like really early, right? Allow themselves to get some early payload progress, or else you might be stuck at this choke for a bit.
Oh, that's nice. That's exactly what they were looking for. Good way to get yourself through the choke is to take that enemy Sojourn down, and instantly Qadsiah have had to back away. Is this feeling oddly reminiscent of Circuit Royal? Good first point, and then losing early picks and making some poor decisions in terms of ultimate commitment. And get them shoved out of the map. They do need to find a foothold here. First picks happen, especially at this level. It can be volatile with Sojourn in play. Qadsiah just need to re-establish if they want to take this series here.
Well, they actually go with a Sim TP all the way around on the flank, and it's a really nice angle to drop that Kitsune Rush, but you end up losing Ziad and Kellex there. It's going to be a nano boost used there onto Yubi, so Simple obviously gets the benefits of it as well.
As the Bionade that got caught onto Ziad, Landon did not have Suzu available at the time, so Ziad just gets absolutely flattened. I think the Ana versus Kiriko dichotomy over the course of this map is going to be something you want to look at very closely. Landon, incredible flex support player, and great Kiriko has to be very sparing with those Suzus to make sure Ziad gets a fair fight in that front line against the Ana.
We'll see if this on a comp here from Twisted Minds enough to get them over the line. Orbital Ray is going to be huge. Orbital Ray plus Annihilation. There's no way you should lose a fight like this. Although Qadsiah will have a sound barrier to respond.
Need to see a first pick from Lambda here. This overclock has to be massive, but so far no opportunities really presenting themselves. The healing for the Orbital Ray is
for
enough.
a while.
Sound barrier though is going to buy you some time. The Annihilation though is going to stick around while you continue to feed it. And KSA barely looks like he has a scratch on him. It's Quartz and Simple though. They're the ones getting looked at, and that's what forces a disengage now. As a symbol comes up for our Qadsiah, they have been able to beat out this disgusting ult combo with the Orbital Ray and the Annihilation. Just by buying time, playing back behind the wall, disengaging, staying alive. Ziad eventually gets gobbled up. And Checkmate was too deep. It's a full commitment for our Qadsiah yet again. This time it won't pay off.
And it's a rare moment where they're not able to capitalize on Ziad pushing up using that Annihilation, because it looked like, how you mentioned, they had kind of weathered the storm, so to speak. I liked how Lambda kind of got to the side to use that overclock. The Annihilation and the Orbital Ray used there before the sound barrier even comes through for Qadsiah. So it looked like a really good setup for them. They get a few kills, but then they try and push for more, and they get caught.
Once again, another Vortex thrown down. This is Qadsiah looking to start the fight on the defense side. However, it does cause them themselves to be a little bit disjointed, and that's something the Twisted Minds capitalize on here. Ziad made a dive into the back line, realized he had to get out eventually as Kellex and Checkmate were brought down. And this is that same issue we saw from them defensively. Qadsiah try and make a play for things, try and commit abilities. Kitsune Rush thrown into the fight there. This time, doesn't pay off.
This is what I was talking about before, right? Where it looks like they're just kind of constantly just throwing their bodies at the objective. It didn't look like it had a lot of plan before, but now they use the TP, get to the high ground, see if they can just stabilize here, maybe play a little slower. Nice cleanse there from Landon, but much needed.
And a look to fall back now. SMTP got KSA forward, but it's now been destroyed. He's going to have to Annihilation to try and stick around in this fight. And Kellex is going to have the answer in a couple moments if his team can just stay alive a little longer. Being developed and now deployed straight away. Quartz force back, big damage taken as Lambda takes in the task on that high ground. Bionade on Zia, but it's not a huge issue as the damage has already been done as far as Qadsiah is concerned. Sound barrier comes up as they are able to fold back away from the Annihilation. That is a very good stop, and it's a momentum killer for Twisted Minds.
Yeah. And it feels like that Twisted Minds, Mitch, they've actually had a pretty good offense, but you look at the clock, and we're below a minute. I think it's really just that first point defense there from Qadsiah, because the second part of the map was all Twisted Minds.
And now it's going to be a grind. They're going to throw this Orbital Ray in without the Annihilation to back it up. Yubi has a sim wall. Checkmate deploys these a little earlier. Tough for Lambda to find eliminations here, but Checkmate, that wall is huge. Yubi throws one up, and it doesn't stop Lambda from dealing with Quartz, and all of a sudden, Twisted Minds, who are at risk of falling here in a screaming heap. The Annihilation here for Ziad eventually slept out. There's more answers against the Annihilation on the TM side than there is on the Outcast side, in fairness. Still going to buy them a lot of space, and potentially a stagger as Yubi gets caught out. And that was a Nano committed to the fight. Simple hope to try and keep the sim alive, but that ultimate is fizzled.
Yeah, it was just a Nano for Simple at that point, right? Yubi ends up falling. I know while the Nano is kind of in flight, but Quentin and Yubi off the spawn pick up a few kills.
KSA's in a decent position now as well. Was able to find himself face to face with both backliners in Nemesis form, and that Annihilation is again ready to go. He's been vomiting damage in this fight, and the Venture now is going to be brought in by Checkmate. Up they pop. Yubi going to be knocked aside briefly, looking for Funny Astro here in the sky, but he's a tough man to catch at the best of times. Checkmate though has found the Juno. That's a big pick, but the Annihilation now has to be handled, and Checkmate has to drill rush away from that area of damage. KSA stands to the eye of the storm now and tries to beckon Ziad forward. Kellex low but stays alive. It's Landon though fighting two. Kitsune Rush will be around the corner, but his fire won't go long enough. Those kunai hits are far too good. Now Qadsiah, man, feels like there's nothing they can't do. What a stop here at the end of King's Row.
And Kellex is getting very close to having his sound barrier. It just feels like even when, I mean, you're looking at this from Twisted Minds, even last time of like, oh, you know what, hey, pretty good offense, but you come around here in Qadsiah, they get these holds, they know a perfect position, obviously, for them to be able to solidify a win here in this series is just complete the map, right? That all it kind of comes down to, and they have proven to be extremely good at that.
Now, of course, they'd like to turn around on the attack side and play that Mei-based rush style we saw in Circuit Royal, but that is not available to them here. The Twisted Minds heads-up ban of that DPS hero. Doesn't mean Qadsiah can't go for that similar style. It just won't have an easy way to catch out KSA amongst these chokes anymore. Again, disgusting damage from KSA. Stellar Ramatra play. You know, again, when you have 50% extra damage than your opposition tank, you know you've had a pretty good...
Yeah. Yeah, you can't be too upset about that. So we'll see for Twisted Minds. No, nothing. So they're not going to be going with the Ana setup, right? So we'll see them actually rolling with the Juno, the Kiri Lucio here. Same as Qadsiah. So our first kind of like a true mirror that we've had pretty much throughout the entire series.
This is a map that's been a good one for Twisted Minds. Bit of a home ground in many ways. Fight for survival in this upper game. Both teams, of course, heading to our mid-season championship. I definitely want to secure that better seed as the rest of the world are looking dangerous as well. But EMEA's, I guess their crop this time around is looking much better. Checkmate there just catches the left hook. Doesn't really realize there's a bit of extra range on that one, and he gets flattened early.
Yeah, I think it took a little bit of extra damage from somebody, and then it's just the Nemesis form punch from KSA. Just takes him out, but that also shows you a little bit of like how much of a glass cannon Sim is, right? Where if you step out a little bit too far, even the littlest source of damage or damage that you wouldn't really kind of consider lethal becomes lethal.
Up we come again, second time. Checkmate, of course. No extra TP length perf, but still enough to get them within striking distance. Now they move up to the statue. Good, these front lines trading damage pretty aggressively. Low throughput healers on both sides, even with Lucio's passive healing increase. You be the trade here for Kelix and landed. Another unsuccessful fight for our Qadsiah. Getting rid of the Sim is not exactly going to give them an edge as she can get back to the fight quickly, and this is a good stagger on Ziad.
I mean, the biggest thing there for Twisted Minds, right, is you're going to get both supports instantly there for Qadsiah. If you can get both these supports out, I know as often as they have so far here early on defense, we're going to see a fourth map here in this set. We'll see if Qadsiah can kind of change anything up, though, to kind of help some of these players make it through the choke.
Getting through the choke, less of an issue, right? Playing for the statue, though, that's where they seem to start to lose out. I think it's because, you know, Quartz has much better sightlines to play with, and Ziad's trying to do something about that. Bit of a gambit he makes here, trying to get back behind the statue. There's Quartz, like I mentioned, always has a foxhole to play from. Speaking of which, double Qadsiah rushes now, crisscross the point. Yubi taken down again. Qadsiah not able to find any more momentum than a one pick in the fight.
Quartz is just on fire here on the Sojourn. As that was the Annihilation and Kitsune rush for Qadsiah. They use a TP up to the high ground. They try and drop that Annihilation off to the side with that Kitsune rush, and it does not result in anything, right? It just gives Quartz a really easy target to start shooting from. This is going to be the sim wall here from Checkmate. This is trying to ramp onto KSA.
Lacta has a great sightline now, Matt. Playing up on the high ground because that's where the TP went, and also behind his sim wall. This is as good as it gets for our Qadsiah. They need to get their Sojourn in position to take the game over. That is the win condition. Overclock at the ready. Annihilation waited out as both teams are sitting on those sound barriers for as long as they possibly can, but that might not be an option for much longer for the attack side, and Kelix has to go for it. Funny Astro also goes low, taken down, but it's Quartz picked up by Lambda. He whips around. Quartz, an audacious play towards the backline, ends up unraveling him, but the rest of Twisted Minds able to receive this push. Our Qadsiah once again break like waves upon rock. Twisted Minds feeling very much at home here on Kings Row, and only a minute remains for our Qadsiah to get this first point.
And this is kind of what I expected Twisted Minds to do on circuit, right? After how they looked, where, okay, for a second there, I thought we were going to see, all right, just going to be Checkmate playing the Pharah. So Lambda will stay on the Soj. They're going to ditch the Sim completely here, play the Pharah into it. This is interesting, right? We haven't seen a team like really kind of who's played the Sim a ton and have to counter it, and this is what they decide to go with.
Takes some time as well for this Pharah to ramp up, but fortunately for our Qadsiah, Lambda with a damage boost assist there is able to find a pick to start things off. He eventually, though, goes down. Does Kelix have a safe way to rest this? It doesn't look like that's the case. He's had to drop down a little bit later, putting Ziad out in the firing line for a little bit too long, and he could not get enough healing. That res doesn't do much for the tempo of our Qadsiah. We're losing their main tank. They might be out of options here on this attack side.
Yeah, it'll have to be probably Ziad who will try and get a touch. You will have an Annihilation, so you're not completely out of it if you can trigger OT.
Go time now. In overtime. Checkmate over the top of the fight. Has to respect Quartz's damage. And there's a Sim turret there as well that slows him up long enough to hold him in the sight line of the enemy Sojourn. What a staunch defense here from Twisted Minds. Just as they looked at risk of letting this one slip through their fingers, they will stay alive in this upper bracket final. Get a foothold here with a big win on Kings Row.
And this is what you expected to see with these two teams, kind of like blows back and forth. It was really all Qadsiah up until this point, but Twisted Minds showed up in a big way, right? Their offense, pretty good, don't exactly complete the map, but a full hold here on King's Row. Extremely impressive.
And you can see that Mayban looks really good in the context of how King's Row went down, because there isn't a good way to target, Qadsiah all over the course of that series. He ends that attack side with a disgusting 15k plus damage, where he can't be caught out, can't really be exploited, and then turns around on defense and looks pretty darn unbreakable. Course, of course, with the benefit of playing from that favored high ground on defense, finds a lot of these key first picks, and unfortunately, Qadsiah exit most of those fights with one elimination at that. Looking over the course of this series, we are seeing Twisted Minds come alive now, which is about time, because people have been heralding, this team peaking at the perfect moment, right, to come on in here and to make an impact. That's, of course, shots from our first match.
We just want to show you that Reinhardt one more time. It's so rare that we just, we're like, hey, we can load up King's Row highlights, but nothing really great.
Not much there.
Let's just take a look back.
Not much to say. I mean, this series is definitely going to be dominated by just the dynamic in that Ramatra mirror. I think if Qadsiah now have the chance to, again, pick a really hostile, brawl front line to Ramatra, they're looking pretty good, because KSA's fallbacks in the Ryan, in the Sigma, have not looked great so far. There's a lot to discuss as we come back after the break here. We're going to be heading into our fourth map as Twisted Minds stay alive in this upper grand final, called Upper Final. This is EMEA Stage 2 playoffs. Both these teams are already qualified for mid-season championship. There's still plenty to play for, so don't go too far. Ian's here from Twisted Minds, and not a moment too soon as they keep us alive. We are headed to Colosseo of all maps.
Colosseo.
With Ziad's Diva being targeted, the Sim taken off the map by Qadsiah. They do not want to deal with TPs on this map.
Well, these coaches looked at it and were like, wait, hold on. We don't have to play Runasapi? And they're like, no, there's another option. They're like, all right, yeah, sure, we're down. And Qadsiah gets rid of the Sim here. I mean, that's a fascinating. No Diva either here. This is going to be a much different game than we've seen from either of these teams.
Ton of options still available to you, though, right? Like the Orisa May combo is at your disposal.
There are only 2 heroes gone, so there are more things at your disposal.
You could also work in, thank you, John Madden. You could also work in a little bit of that hazard as well. Next, you're going to be telling them if they don't win, they're going to lose.
Yeah. If you don't win here, obviously you would lose the game. And then depending on the score, we would continue to play, or we would call it. But yeah, no, that's how this one goes. You're on fire today. I gotta say, you've been battling. I mean, literally
on fire. That's how it feels anyway. But listen, both these teams.
Whatever sickness you got from eating caviar for 3 weeks you were gone.
I don't think I've even seen caviar. Wow, I've seen it in pictures. I don't know why people want to eat that stuff anyway. What is it?
I'm not too sure.
It's like bad boba pearls, and they're smaller and salty. Yeah. Capers as well. What's up with capers, man? I feel like I'm doing crowd work at a very bad stand-up show. Let's just get on to the game.
I don't mess with those either.
Yeah.
So interesting here in that Twisted Minds, typically where Sim would be gone, this is where Psycho would come in and play, right? The last 2 weeks or so, though, they've gone back to Yubi, probably obviously to kind of use some more of this Sim, but in a game like this, Yubi even comes up with that first pick. They're going to still ride with him.
All right, not too shabby a starting for Twisted Minds on their map choice. Qadsiah, who you would think would be favored in a Tracer matchup, with Checkmate of all people in that role. See Yubi tear them to shreds at the start of the map, and off we go. Now starting to build a head of steam. Twisted Minds really fighting for that ticket straight to our grand final. Our upper grand final championship game. You know what I'm talking about.
Man, you're in the Twilight Zone. Were you up late with Nate Shot last?
I mean, if I was on the Twilight Zone, I'd be on the bench. You know what I mean? I would be casting.
You were up late with Nate and Tim last night.
Oh yeah. I didn't get that knife though, did I? Didn't get that knife.
No. Tough. But okay, so they don't even really kind of get it past that choke. So this is actually not terrible for Qadsiah, right? You've only given up 25 meters or so, but they didn't get it around that important final corner, right? Where you're kind of pushing over towards that high ground. They don't make any progress there. So not the end of the world for Qadsiah. You'll start to move this around the corner. This will be the difficult part though for Qadsiah, right? Letting Twisted Minds kind of come down into them, winning a fight on the low ground, and then getting this extra meterage.
Checkmate here. Been dealing with Yubi for much of this map, but honestly just getting kind of gaffed on the Tracer.
Yeah,
it help that they're playing like that side fight style with the Kiri of Simple grouping up with the Tracer. And this is this Judo Kiri look always gives you like a second arm. A really strong flank presence, of course, as you can stick around with your Tracer for that much longer, and Yubi is really exploiting that.
Yeah, now funny Astro, even with a game where Lucio is in, does not feel the pressure to be able to, to have to play it. It's a nice spear, though, there from Ziad, interrupts the block from KSA. He'll be able to get rid of the Ram, and this may actually give Qadsiah that little bit of meterage I was talking about, where they might be able to kind of get the lead off of this, as they kind of wait Quartz out here towards the end. They'll take him out, after a while, so he'll be waiting off the respawn.
All right. Checkmate with the pulse bomb in hand. Now has to adjust his play style because he can't really fight Yubi in these protracted flanking engagements. He's just outnumbered. KSA wants to try and play up the stairs, but he's not being allowed to move down. This is what the Orista's going to do to you. Straight into the mix, Ziad gets it. Funny Astro, no help for him. Sound barrier. That's how Qadsiah play that much more aggressively, but that's what they need to do to try and get on this high ground. Annihilation now for KSA means he can stake his claim to the objective, and Ziad, even with a Terror Surge and that extra durability it offers, can't stick around.
No, and you had already lost like some other players there for Qadsiah. It gets off to a good start, right? They're able to use the sound barrier to push up the staircase. They get rid of Funny Astro. They do end up taking the lead out of that. So Astro not able to end up using the orbital raid during that. But dude, Quartz has been doing such a sick job though. Whether it be at range putting down some damage, and then Yubi just following everything up on the Tracer. I mean, he's been the biggest difference probably.
Orbital raid now for Twisted Minds. They're really adamant about trying to win a fight here and getting in under that bridge. So far, not so bad. Lambda, there might be a wrinkle in that plan. Quartz is picked off early. But again, story of King's Row for Qadsiah. They find a good pick early on in the fight, but it's about converting it. It's been the biggest challenge. Lambda is now down. And even with that KSA, Yubi and Simple try and ask for a little bit more of this push progress. Lambda, though, back to hold it at bay and force Simple out of the fight.
Man, Yubi is just on a different level. You see Lambda even kind of switching over to Cassidy, right? Maybe to try and stop this Tracer for Twisted Minds, just running through everybody on Qadsiah as the bot will get back towards mid-map. So we'll see. Oh, another kill there from Yubi. A pulse bomb connect on the Kelex.
Yeah, Yubi dead, Kelex. Great pulse connection here. And even the Cassidy switch for Lambda, in theory, to give Qadsiah another way of answering this Tracer presence. It just gets punished by Quartz's range advantage and just general power creep over the Cassidy. Very, very difficult for Qadsiah now also to try and attack the high ground from low with this kind of setup. Yeah, Lambda, straight off that Cassidy says, look, you're going to have to deal with the Tracer on your own. Checkpoint here for Twisted Minds.
So, I mean, dude, checkpoint is massive halfway through the game. I mean, this puts Qadsiah in that, like, horrible scenario you never want to be in push, right? Where you got to win, like, 2-3 fights in a row just to, potentially get closer towards that mid-map area or, like, where you actually have the barrier on the other side. So, we'll see the bot move away a little bit. I believe that is just in the way of Kelex actually getting on and touching it. Quartz, though, deletes 3-4. What?
That is absurd stuff from Quartz. What a moment to do it. Yeah. Checkpoint just taken by Twisted Minds. And it looks like a bit of a, I don't know, it looks like an even fight until he gets involved. Devastating. Works his way through Qadsiah. All pretty low. Susceptible to the overclock. But I don't know if there's any way you're coming back from that. We're close to Avril's Law getting triggered as 100 meters is on the table now for Twisted Minds. Yubi's finally dealt with. Checkmate's pulse bomb here might have a target. Simple, probably not it though, given the presence of Suzu. Quartz KSA down. Twisted Minds get to pack it up for now.
Is that official now? Like, with like Isaac Newton's law, like as Avril's one, like is that one we're writing that one down?
Yeah, it's just far less consequential. And
right.
Potentially that's interesting depending on your, what you like. Yeah.
What your interests are. Yeah,
exactly. They're very niche.
I mean, Avril is right though. I mean, once you get look, even once you get checkpoint, it can be very difficult for the opposing team to bounce back. It'll be a orbital array here for TM, so this is actually going to push Qadsiah back.
All right, Terror Surge there. Yubi down again though at the start of the fight. That's 2 consecutive engagements. But Twisted Minds have lost their Tracer early on. Where do you go from here? Qadsiah now are still in the middle of the map, though. They need to build on this fight and hold on to some of these ultimates. But Kelex has felt like he's had to commit the sound barrier, and that's before the Annihilation comes out. Now Qadsiah actually have to respect this Ramatra ultimate so much more. And with Checkmate down, Yubi coming off respawn with a vengeance. There's an advantage here for Twisted Minds now to exploit.
Oh, it's going to be a Kitsune rush here for Qadsiah as well, as they must feel like this is like a must-win type of scenario. 3 minutes on the clock, and they are not going to come out on top in this, and they don't even force Simple to end up using the Kitsune rush on the other side of things. So a poor fight for Qadsiah. I wonder, Mitch, like, why don't you think they're actually just going to like mirror the Ram here, right? Like they looked pretty decent like when they've done the Ram head-to-head.
Checkmate here is trying to kick Astro off the cart right now, but Twisted Minds are still asking for more, always. Funny, Astro eventually goes down. He was left in control of the cart, so Twisted Minds will just continue to push up. Oh, what a win for Yubi. That is a disastrous result for Checkmate. God, he absolutely had to win that. And that was without the help of the Kiriko, by the way. That's Yubi doing it natty.
I mean, Yubi and Quartz have just turned up here on Colosseo. I just wonder, like, why Qadsiah wouldn't consider mirroring the Ramatra. Maybe you feel like that you don't want to, because you're not playing the Juno, right? Like the Ram with the orbital ray has an advantage, but it's not like they've looked bad in these Ram head-to-heads.
Checkmate looking for here. That pulse is still being held on to. Simply not a great target for it, but he does force a swift step early out. Quartz charged up there with the last shot that overclock. Yeah, there it is. Calyx caught in midair there amongst the Vortex as well. Checkmate now under siege. Simple pushing in his direction. This is Twisted Minds. They've reasserted themselves, and the pulse bomb for Checkmate finally gets drawn out, but it's inconsequential. It's a fight that's already lost.
It's not going to make any difference, right? You're going to kind of continue to get this bot deeper into Qadsiah territory. Lambda, I think, just kind of searching for a hit scan to be able to play, right? Now going back to Cassidy, seeing if this will work.
Okay, here we go once again on the bridge. Xian wants to push up, get in KSA's face. Really the only target he's got to look at right now as he tries to isolate KSA as much as possible. But Funny Astro could do some healing from a safer distance, especially with these pulsar torpedoes. Can't really help Yubi though, and he runs again to the Cassidy. They'll have to switch back over to that pick as once more Qadsiah have begun the conversation about how they answer this Yubi Tracer, because Checkmate alone has not been able to do it.
No, Checkmate has been getting gapped on the Tracer in this one, which is very rare to say, right? Considering how good Checkmate is on Tracer, and then also for Twisted Minds, because we've seen Psycho play a lot of Tracer for them throughout the stage, where this is definitely last chance scenario here for Qadsiah. 30 seconds on the clock. You need 70 plus meters.
30 seconds left. That is just not enough time to play with. Qadsiah have to do something special for us now. Funny Astro with an orbital ray though. Kitsune Rush also thrown in. Twisted Minds realize they are this close to winning this map. And it'll be over to Qadsiah to try and find an answer to break the deadlock and to get out of this series into that upper final. Simple on the chase. Checkmate's got nowhere to go. He knows that his time is done and won't be back off spawn in time to have an impact. Xian will try and touch. He can, sure, but has to play from around that pillar, and eventually he needs to face the music. KSA's going to wrap around on him because he landed desperately trying to keep those Okuro coming in. But Xian's got nowhere to go. Lambda will make a little bit of space for him here, but there's so many columns to hide away from that the Deadeye really isn't an issue. And Twisted Minds will push the issue once more. Pulse dropped, Quartz able to dodge it, get healed back up now as he's under pressure from the Tracer. And Overclock though is at the ready. He's got to send and deliver now, playing this off angle. Pulse committer for Yubi, and he has had an incredible map on this Tracer. That's something that cannot be overstated. Xian low, no armor to speak of, and hardly any life force left to his name. There'll be Twisted Minds taking us to a decider.
And I think, like how you mentioned, we are just seeing a huge gap here in terms of the DPS. I think Quartz and Yubi both playing phenomenal here throughout this one, especially Yubi. Like that's probably one of the more surprising things for me, right? We actually see Quartz play pretty well a lot of times, especially on those hit scans, and Yubi can turn up on Tracer, but in a game like this, it's really impressive.
Yeah, and again, this is a pretty specific style to Twisted Minds, playing the Juno Kiri setup. Yep. Not a lot of teams go for it, not a lot can. Not everybody has Simple, one of the most unreal players of this era of Overwatch that we've sort of seen. And it was quite a problem for Checkmate to deal with at the start of the game, and it's forced Lambda to go off the Sojourn and switch to Cassie, which obviously makes him a little bit susceptible to Quartz, who's also a big problem. And so while Qadsiah are constantly dithering, you know, what is that sort of hit scan pick supposed to be for them? How do they set Ziad up for success? Because on maps in the past, we've seen Ziad have, you know, a good time against Ramatra, especially when he has Mei to work with, but this is just not the map for it. They don't feel like they can really get value out of the Mei. It doesn't really suit them. Also, this map is not choky enough to use her. Now, in this era, I guess, the Colosseo, this is a wider area. There also took the windows out so you can play, you know, from these arches. It's much harder to catch that Ramatra out.
And we'll see. Okay, so it'll be Qadsiah's pick. The pick already in New Junk City. We see New Junk City a lot here in EMEA. And just trying to look through some of the bans, right? Qadsiah, they banned Sim, they banned BAP. If you're Qadsiah, would you ban Tracer and force the Sim game? Because UB also like you wouldn't UB wouldn't strike me as like a Genji player, right? If like we went to that type of scenario, right? So getting rid of Tracer would be interesting. It puts like more like Mei on the menu. I think that would be something you could potentially do.
I think that there's a good chance that with Symmetra back on the board on a map like New Junk City, it might be a direction that Twisted Minds still want to go in. So if you try and ban Tracer, you might be playing into TM's wheelhouse anyway. They just might be planning on playing the Sim now that she's on the table once again for them. So that's like a 50-50 ban. Well, you might want to target something that's you're potentially a little bit more consistent.
Qadsiah's already banned Ram, right? I mean, because I think what I would be worried about, I guess, if I'm Qadsiah, would they ban Orisa on the other side? Enforce a Ram mirror? But I think if you're also Twisted Minds, you've proven that you can beat their Orisa with the Ramatra. So
you can, but you beat it without. Let's be clear, like
without the
Orisa setup that beat the Ramatra was Mei Bastion as well. Like there's a very specific comp for a specific map, and there's no guarantee that you can play that with the same level of success on a map like New Junk City. That's what it took to bring the Ramatra down. I don't think the Orisa alone is enough against Twisted Minds to win that front line.
Okay, so this is interesting. So the bans here, let's see. New Junk City, the first ban is Qadsiah getting rid of the Brig. So getting Brig out of the way, this is really good for like Diva comps, right? Diva comps obviously excel, you know, when the Brig is not in play. Ziad and Co, though, they make it work even when the Brig is in action. And then another Queen ban here. So we've seen a few teams actually kind of get rid of Queen here today. Don't know if this would have been something that we would have seen here towards the end of the game, but the Queen being gone here for that 5th game.
I wonder about this Brig ban, because Twisted Minds have found so much success with the Juno Kiri. And there's like plenty of reason to go for that kind of comp on a map like this if you want to play a more static frontline, a more brawly style. So we'll see how that was maybe sort of intended to play into this. But yeah, look, we've seen Queen ban twice today, not played at all yet. So it looks like she might have found a niche on some maps for some teams. But we're not going to see her today at EMEA, that is for sure. We're jumping in just a moment. Our decider map, folks. It is New Junk City. The winner advances to the grand final. Loser must tangle with virtus.pro in the lower bracket.
I'd imagine Qadsiah is potentially even thinking about running like could you run like a BAP Lucio, right? You know, you see it here for Twisted Minds potentially. Like, I think that would be an option to be able to go with. You know, Kiri obviously pairs well with the Ram. I think without the Brig, though, right, you have nothing to kind of protect. Like, if you play Kiri Juno, for instance, right? Remember in the previous series with VP, how we saw you're just able to kill those 2 supports every single time. It was like a Kiri, no, it was a Juno Ana in that series, but still, I think it's too vulnerable. You have to kind of play something else with it. I like this decision from TM. Drop the Juno, play the Lucio with the Sim, and then have a BAP in the mix. I actually thought Qadsiah would go for something like this, right? But landed on the BAP, potentially.
DP out for Qadsiah. They don't like what they've seen here. Looking to take a bit more of a safer line. Maybe able to buy Lapdra a little bit of extra time. So very much still in the pitch battle here. Somewhat similar compositions. It's a lower throughput setup here for Qadsiah. Maybe more even health pack reliant. And there's a nice little TP up there. That was pretty bloody good from Qadsiah. Take this high ground and instantly take Simple out of the fight. Now Twisted Minds have to subsist on Lucio healing alone, which is not going to cut it.
No, Qadsiah just taking a beat here, just getting everybody kind of topped up. You see where Funny Astro's even pushed back to. He's not even in a great spot as Ziad will end up losing his mech, but it does not matter as much because Qadsiah will end up winning the fight. And yeah, they use that Sim TP up to the high ground. And Simple's not even able to react, right? Not able to get like a regen burst or even the immortality field out as okay, they're actually going to get Ziad off of this and then go back to a D.Va, so they gonna not even risk it, not having a mech. Yeah.
This series is going to be decided by Sim TP play from both these sides, which is very communication heavy, very all about a coordination. Twisted Mind's able to quickly flip things back, though. This Ramatra comp is one that's always going to be able to, ask the question for Qadsiah. Come down and fight us. Now, Qadsiah here have to, again, outmaneuver, play off the point, win the fight, and then flip it. So once again, they take this high ground. This time there's a TP ready, though, for Twisted Minds, who can get some of their squishier players out of the firing line, and they're able to get across the map. That nice shot here from Labda, though, establishes a long sideline that he finally is actually able to make use of. For another successful Qadsiah fight, but this was less about the TP and more about that accuracy from their Soja.
And I think as well, Mitch, what you see there too is like the TPs from both sides. Simple drops his amp matrix, and then it's a really nice wall there from Checkmate. So you're not able to get any value with that amp matrix that's set up to like look over the point, and then Lab has the overclock rolling, right? So no way you're going to be able to win that type of scenario here for Twisted Minds. But now having their own sound barrier here, it's going to be the immortality field used already.
Match beats, and it's going to favor the team in control of the point right now. Qadsiah are playing from the outside of this area. This means Twisted Minds outmaneuvering them somewhat, can play for the point and flip it. Really, Sim TP is really dictating the way this game flows right now. Checkmate with a TP across, sets up an off angle on KSA, and maybe access towards that back line too. Yubi traded out for Lafty here, but Quartz is still at large and hits a big shot there. Gonna make Checkmate easy pickings for KSA to pick up, but Quartz eventually will fall. This is gonna be a very close flashpoint now. Is he able to self-destruct? The chance to get back in the mid. Oh, look at Justin. KSA nowhere to go. Kellex boops him back into the blast.
Oh, they get KSA with the self-destruct. Ziad gets back in mech. That is enormous there. Saw Kellex making a huge play. KSA didn't really have many options to go for. As Quartz will go to Tracer, will get a touch here as they still want to try and keep this first point alive. Nobody able to get a second touch, so first point will go to Qadsiah.
Close flashpoint, but Twisted Minds only had 4 eliminations over the entirety of that flashpoint. They simply had the Ramatra comp that could play straight to the point and flip it back in their favor before the fight began, whereas Qadsiah had to take their time a little bit more, look for a good engagement. So it looks close, but on paper, it's not. I mean, Labda has an extra 2,000 damage on Quartz's 2,300. He is dominating in terms of that Sojourn matchup, but Quartz has gone over towards the Cassidy now.
Yeah, and I think this is like a little bit of a D.Va deterrent, right? You don't have that break to kind of slow down that D.Va, so maybe trying to find something that could be a little bit more sturdy. But you already have the map in the mix.
It's so diveable. Against this D.Va, though, that's still an issue for Quartz. He might be favored in some scenarios against the Symmetra up close if he can slow it down and prevent the Strafen to dodge the shots. But again, Qadsiah need to be the reactive team, right? They need to set up a plan around this TP to get in because Twisted Minds have a stronger front line in a pitched battle. So now they set up an off angle. Once again, Labda does not take the TP, plays from behind, trying to get KSA's attention, which has been quite challenging. He leaves the point. Disengaged now for Twisted Minds with the sim play. This is 4D chess that these two teams are trying to play.
You just see players just like disappearing and ending up on the other side of the map. Like, oh, they're close to killing KSA, and then he's gone on the other side of the map. But Labda actually takes the TP here and gets a little bit close. They take out Funny Astro. Not going to be able to take out KSA. You see how sturdy he is with that block on the Ram. So you'll get Funny Astro back in the mix. There'll be this next fight, Mitch, is going to be huge. I mean, double support ult for Twisted Minds. Overclock here that opens things up. And yeah, I love this decision here from Qadsiah. They use that overclock and they push in early.
Matt, this is what we saw in map 1 and 2 from Qadsiah, right? They're technically on the defense, but they start a fight on their own timing to make it hard for Twisted Minds to set up and get their bulkier front line in position. The Symmetra gameplay, though, with that extended TP range, makes this a different game. Like, this is we've never really seen Overwatch quite like this, that these two teams are trying to play. There are only, two of the very few teams in this region that play this style, but get ready to see more of it, folks, because Sim is really warping the game. Simwall's going to be thrown up on the point here. Qadsiah close to get another flashpoint. Self-destruct here in the midst of the walls allows Ziad a remake opportunity, but Twisted Minds have a sound barrier now ticking down, and that lets them find checkmate, play that much more aggressively towards the front liners, and Ziad will be again knocked out of mech, giving Twisted Minds a real shot at this second flashpoint.
Yeah, it's a better beat there from Twisted Minds. They have it in that fight, and they use it a little bit later after the M-Matrix and the Kitsune rush is used. I think for Qadsiah, you're just trying to die early because, give Killex an opportunity to get his beat here and then just kind of come back and end up winning it. So we'll see if that's something that they're able to do. Probably, you might have one more fight here. It might be two if you're really fast, but looking more like one with how they're deciding to play it.
Dead on out for Quartz. This is going to force Qadsiah back to the choke. Huge TP use. Oh, man. Quartz going back and forth, but doesn't find any of those happy little red skulls. Qadsiah TP into the back line. Twisted Minds ready for this quick immortality called thrown down by KSA. Is going to be run over inside Annihilation, and they find the damage on the Ramatra. Kelex will be traded out, but Qadsiah still should be favored here. Landon needs to stay alive. He's very, very low. The checkmate TPs into the back line himself. He finds the extra damage on Funny Astro, and this should lock it up. Ziad is DMX'd, but Qadsiah have what they need here, and no amount of TPs is going to save Twisted Minds. Maybe the Wrecking Ball stall. Yubi dipped his toe in there for just a moment. Good TP use again to stall things out, but not enough time for KSA to get there. And Twisted Minds are teetering on the edge of defeat.
Mitch, you can't lose that fight if you're Twisted Minds. You get that kill on a Killex early. They know sound barrier. You had the Annihilation going, but KSA, dies really fast during that Ram ult. And now look at the situation you're in, right? Overclock double support ult on the other side in a situation where you have to win to open up this fight. This is not how Twisted Minds drew this up.
Frustration, I'm sure, already starting to come to the surface for Twisted Minds, but they are a different beast than we saw start out here in Stage 2. And yeah, they've already qualified for Mid-Season Championship, but they want more. They're always asking for more. Labda, who's been a front runner, a real standout on this Qadsiah outfit on this map, is continuing to punch this damage in. He's always found himself 10k right now, where Quartz barely has half of that. Yubi, though, that's big. Checkmate on Labda, gobbled up. Nice little TP pivot here from Twisted Minds. They'll have the point to start.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't hate it. I mean, Landon ends up using the rush there, which is kind of brutal, but you end up coming back with your beat, right? So you'll have your beat to be able to fight this, or Funny Astro uses that beat. I think Ziad and, even Labda there maybe got it to a little bit aggressive, right? I think they saw the Qadsiah by the right door and decided to just go, but didn't exactly have the health pool, the rest of the team there to help.
There's a wall here for Checkmate to throw up. Look at him, pushing forward, potentially getting behind it. Didn't even have to make use of it in this fight, though. Quartz just ceased to exist after going for a Deadeye with a play from that Matrix. Qadsiah had to go forward to get past it, but that just happened to be part of their game plan anyway.
Yeah, that is a Matrix Deadeye that they just beat and just barrel into. They do not care or respect that there from Twisted Minds. Twisted Minds actually just going to drop both those heroes as well, right? Drop the BAP for Akiri, and then the Qadsiah here for Soj, but might be a little bit too late here. Simwall is going to be for both sides.
Can Twisted Minds get back in? Qadsiah have been very, very good with his quick decision making. There should be a remake now for Ziad. Nothing to write home about. Annihilation going to be drawn forth from KSA, that we need to go for it. Looking for these backliners, but gets kind of booped away. Now Qadsiah have the mobility to avoid him for now. They'll allow the Ramatra to play up on the point, but they won't allow it to flip. Now at 93%, Qadsiah are eyeing off that grand final berth, and Funny Astro gets caught out. A Checkmate heads up to a pillar. Cosplaying as a bit of a statue is able to remove the Lucio from the game, and now there's nowhere to go for KSA. This is it, folks. Qadsiah ultimately claim a series. A fake comeback for Twisted Minds averted. And you're looking at your first grand finals here in Stage 2.
And look, I thought that these two teams over the last few weeks, obviously Qadsiah going on this crazy run throughout EMEA, basically from week 1 until now, not dropping any maps in the region. I thought these two teams, though, with the way Twisted Minds have been playing as of late, would be very close, and that turned out to be true. But Qadsiah still too strong, comes out on top in the end. Twisted Minds just a little too short to complete the reverse sweep.
Some interesting developments for Twisted Minds. No sign of Psycho today, and I mean, as good as Max is, I don't know if he is even necessarily being missed because Yubi was able to step into the role of Tracer and look really very good. On the Sim, on the Tracer, looking solid. Twisted Minds definitely have the pieces that they need, but Qadsiah are really good in this Sim mirror. Defensively, they take some great fights off really good timings, and it's something that, frankly, cements them as an elite team in this region. And teams like VP, I don't think could really hope to challenge this. I guess maybe Twisted Minds coming back from the lower bracket could challenge them, but it seems like a little bit of a gap between these two as we start to see in that last map.
The one map, I think, though, that you'll look back at it for Twisted Minds and you're just like, we fumbled this incredibly hard, is map number 1. You're trying to play Sigma comps with the Sim. You're trying to play Reinhardt comps with the Sim. And what's crazy is the comps that, like, we saw from Qadsiah, or comps we saw later in the series that Twisted Minds was able to beat, like, just running, like, RAM-based stuff, right? So, some adjustments in that map 1, and who knows what happens, but hell of a series.
Yeah, look, I mean, if you lose control, you cannot win the series by just winning your own map picks. That is the problem. And if you go and get experimental on that control map, you make it an uphill battle for yourself if it's going to be a close series like this. And Qadsiah just simply won their map picks. That's all they had to do. A lot to talk about today. Set up a lot of stakes for tomorrow, of course. That lower final and the grand final still to come. We're going to head to our desk and break things down and close out EMEA, at least for today.
Yeah, thank you both so much. I do feel like they just literally summarized the entire game, so there is nothing else for us to talk about. So thanks for over waffling.
We can find some things.
We'll find something. Okay, well, I'm here for it. Educate me. Because quite frankly, early on in the series, it just looked like Qadsiah is going to run away with it. They looked so dominant. They were in the driving seat, right? They were pushing that tempo. And although map 1, like, if you don't remember map 1, they didn't have much compositional differences. They played kind of the same thing, but it was just always Qadsiah coming out on top of it, which is an insane read on the game, on the map, on the positioning of the individuals.
Sorry. My bad. I was muted. So I was talking that whole time. But I was very engaged. Apologies to the viewers. But yes, I mean, the biggest difference was the tempo matchup. It was that the fact that we saw a lot of D.Va being played from the side of Qadsiah, and then also played some Orisa there as well. But played the Lucio Kiri backline. And Ramatra was banned, of course, in map 1, which forced Twisted Minds to play slower kind of heroes. They didn't want to match up with the D.Va. Instead, they slowed down things. They played the Sigma. They played the Reinhardt against a May. Do not recommend that. But at the same time, that's kind of like their style. They play slower, and so I don't blame them for going those heroes. I think here you saw on Colosseo, they actually saved the Symmetra ban, and I thought this was very important as well, because it just made the game from Qadsiah one-dimensional. They struggled to channel that aggression when they didn't have the Symmetra teleporter to give them a positional advantage. And so we saw them dominate on that one. On King's Row, Qadsiah went absolutely bizarre, crazy on the defense as well, and that's the 2 map wins there for Twisted Minds. But all in all, I think Qadsiah were the better team. They executed better over the course of the series, but Twisted Minds had a few things going their way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'll piggyback off, but I know you kind of went over it twice for us, but it's true that, you know, in addition to not only Quartz popping off in that moment, it was really this anchor where you also had Yubi really step up and work in synergy and like alongside just what Quartz was bringing to the table, because it was like starting to snowball. They started to get into that right type of mindset, and it really brought them to be able to combat in the end. But once it started to cycle back to that Symmetra, the tactical play, the way that they started out in this, it really just gives them the all-in-all victory here to move to that grand finals.
Absolutely. I mean, it was a 5-map series. It's exactly what we hoped to see, even though the early stages of it didn't look like that's what we're going to get. But we're here now. Qadsiah is officially in the grand finals, awaiting their opponents. Could be another game against Twisted Minds if they're coming up once more through the lower bracket. For now, though, let's check in with one of our players for a winner's interview. I believe we have Landon standing by and joining us for just a second. It is Landon indeed. So first things first, congratulations on the dub. Welcome to the show. Let's talk about how you guys got it done. Started off very, very dominant, but then somehow, some way, Twisted Minds managed to claw their way back into the series to make it competitive. What changes did you have to make once they started turning things around?
Every series we play against Twisted is always an absolute dogfight. I think maybe we got a little bit too excited after 2-0. Because I think we played good on King's Row defense. I think like if we had calmed down and a better plan, we could have for sure for sure full cap King's Row. And Colosseo, we're just gonna look at and review. I got a little dude behind me. Checkmate wave. Give him a wave.
Well, and like you were mentioning that, getting kind of settled in, you were very confident getting those 2 maps back to back. Would you agree that you kind of just sat back a little bit in your chair and almost anticipated that you were just going to easily take that 3rd map? Or was it really just that the shift from Twisted Minds allowed you guys to have to reevaluate and say, okay, no, we just have to really fundamentally change a few things, and then once you cycle back to that Symmetra, you basically put the nail in the coffin?
Twisted definitely changed their playstyle on their defense. They started playing with insane aggression, playing super close, constantly flanking. And I think it caught us by surprise. And in this kind of sim mirror, ults are so important that if you snowball 1 or 2 fights, it's just kind of really difficult to recover.
I wanted to ask you about that Symmetra ban because it seemed like the Symmetra was a big difference maker, but there was no Symmetra available on Colosseo. How did that kind of change your game on that 4th map after they had just won King's Row?
We tried the sim mirror. We're running on the sim mirror, and in all honesty, this match is important, but it's not the most important match. So we kind of approached this match trying some new stuff, trying out different bands, trying different comps like you saw on map 1, testing the waters a little bit, because I'm almost positive we're gonna rematch against Twisted in the finals, So we wanted to just try some stuff out.
Yeah, and I mean, so far you've always managed to come out on top. Sometimes a bit squeaky bum time, but a win is a win in the very end, and you already secured your spot at the mid-season championship as well. So Landon, I'm going to let you go, but not before letting you know that you are in fact our player of the match. So congratulations on the performance today. It's always a pleasure watching you pop off. But as I said, for now we're going to let you go and prep for tomorrow's grand final. Thank you so much.
Got it. Thank you.